more traffic. This is 606 Kilo Alpha, approaching takeoff. For millennia, humans have looked at the clouds and stars, and they have wondered, how can we fly like birds? In Greek mythology, the boy Icarus was given a pair of artificial wings by his father, but the feathers melted off when he flew too close to the sun, and he fell to his death. The story may be grim, but it shows that even long ago, humans were dreaming of flight. We kept on dreaming, and in the 15th century, Leonardo da Vinci drew designs for a mechanical airplane that would be able to fly by flapping its wings. He called it the ornithopter. Only recently, in the last 120 years, was that dream realized when manned flight was achieved. On December 17, 1903, the Wright brothers achieved the first powered flight at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. They had experimented with gliders before, but this was the first sustained flight with the plane powered forward with an engine. The Wright Flyer was significant because it sparked a flurry of innovation in flight. After this historic moment, sustained manned flight was pursued worldwide. "24 years later, great breakthroughs have been made in the field of aviation. Aircraft had reached a level of such reliability that a transatlantic flight was possible. On May 20, 1927, Charles Lindbergh did just that. He flew his single-engine plane, the Spirit of St. Louis, from Long Island to Paris. When he arrived, Lindbergh became a hero. He inspired generations of pilots, and he became known as a visionary for flight. When Amelia Earhart became the first woman to cross the Atlantic solo in an airplane, she made headlines across the world. As an iconic woman aviator, Earhart became a role model for women and pilots. Sadly, she most likely perished somewhere in the Pacific Ocean during her attempted around-the-world flight, but the exact circumstances of her death are unknown. Lindbergh and Earhart both had a profound effect on flight and revolutionized the transportation industry. These daring pilots made the first flights of their kind, and that brought about a new era of world commerce. With transoceanic flights possible, the world shrunk. Now, with continents separated by hours instead of days, travel, trade, and communications became easier. The exchange of goods and information was revolutionized by the advent of the transoceanic airplane. Earhart and Lindbergh blazed a trail of global economy in which people and goods crossed between continents, going further, faster, and at less cost than ever before. The launch of Sputnik in 1957 started a chain reaction of technological advancements. Sputnik was a small satellite launched into orbit by the Soviet Union and kindled fear in the hearts of Americans. If the Soviets could launch satellites, they could presumably spy on the United States or launch missiles from space. With the Cold War in full swing, this was unacceptable to American political leaders. The fear of communism drove the United States into an engineering craze, in which they tried to match and exceed the achievements of the Soviets. It was for this reason, a technological arms race, that President Kennedy proposed a manned mission to the moon in 1961.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win.
In the wake of that speech, NASA established the Apollo program with the goal of making a manned lunar landing a reality. After 8 years of work, the program succeeded. On July 20th, 1969, Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong became the first astronauts to walk on the moon. The American people were ecstatic.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot. Okay, Neil, we can see you coming down the ladder now. I'm at the foot of the ladder. The 11-foot beds are only impressed in the surface about 1 or 2 inches. I'm going to step off the limb now. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Though the space race ended with the fall of the Soviet Union in the early 90s, the people of Earth still reach for the stars. In 1998, the International Space Station was launched. It was a collaborative effort between a number of developed nations. It was sent into orbit in several modules from various countries involved in its construction, and it was assembled in space. The International Space Station has remained continually staffed by astronauts for 15 years, and they have conducted hundreds of experiments in the microgravity environment of orbit. It is the single most expensive item in existence, costing $150 billion. That's more than
$100 billion!
Through research done in orbit, the space station has led to innovations like new drugs for fighting osteoporosis and breakthroughs in remote medicine. However, it's likely that the International Space Station will be one of NASA's last large endeavors. Its budget has been shrinking for the past 20 years, and in fact, the Space Shuttle program was shut down in 2011. As a result of NASA's decline, the private space industry has grown dramatically in recent years. These private space companies share a common goal: going to space. Each of them has a slightly different mission, and their spaceships reflect that. Some companies like SpaceX are bidding for contracts to supply NASA missions, while others are geared more towards space tourism or launching satellites. The end result is that all these companies are approaching the goal of going to space in different ways.
The fact is, privatization just means very unique ways of doing things. I mean, competition works. And I think the more variety that can happen because of privatization means the more ingenuity that can happen. And we need that because we need creative ways of looking towards space.
Ryan Smith is an employee of Virgin Galactic, one of the new spacefaring companies. He loves working in the first commercial space line. Even though Virgin Galactic is in the same industry as several other companies, Ryan is glad for their achievements.
Really are coexisting, supporting different aspects of the market, but all with the same end goal of creating cheap, efficient, and regular space access for everyone on Earth to get as many people into space as we can. Blue Origin, SpaceX, Boeing, Orbital, all those guys, the more we can have, the better. Because they'll just drive the technology into competition.
The flight technology these spacefaring firms are working on has exciting applications. In the future, Ryan envisions a new, cooperative boom in outer space achievements of the human race.
What's been interesting is with all the conflict in Ukraine, the sanctions against Russia, all of these strikes between the U.S. and Russia, the International Space Station has still continued to operate as normal. We have joint crews launching out of Russia, and so it really shows that space brings the world together. I think that kind of a motivation is what's going to drive us forward. It's going to be a continual evolution. Look how far we've come from the Wright brothers to where we are today in a bit over 100 years. The next 100 years, I'll bet you it's going to be even more exponential on the growth.
Jason Batt works for a company that wants to make that exponential growth happen. He's a member of the 100-Year Starship Project.
When it comes down to your Starship, our mission is this. We call ourselves a global focused organization which is trying to create the most diverse or get the most diverse group of people together to develop the capacity for interstellar travel in the next 100 years.
If the project is successful, humans in the future might develop colonies on exoplanets and other solar systems.
And we have discovered more exoplanets in the last year than in all of human history. It is one of the most inspiring new areas of astronomy, and it does have a major effect on what we're doing. Our theme for this next year for our symposium is going to be called Finding Earth 2.0, because we want this idea of trying to actually get out there and look at what the exoplanet data is telling us and thinking about it from that perspective. In 5 billion years,
Yeah.
I would hope that we would have a very, very large human presence across this galaxy. I would hope in 5 billion years we're looking at intergalactic travel.
What we really need is the long-term, in my opinion, long-term sustainability in space that's independent from the Earth. So if something were to happen to the Earth, we have human footprints that are self-sustainable elsewhere.
Who knows what the next development in the history of flight will be? Will we establish human colonies on other planets? Will we achieve faster than light speeds and travel easily between the stars? Looking at the short and intense history of flight innovation, this much is certain. We will continue to make groundbreaking accomplishments, and we are headed in an exciting direction. And remember, we have only observed a very small portion of the entire universe.
The only thing that we understand right now is 5% of the mass of the universe. We don't understand what 95% of that interstellar medium is.